We had to make really difficult decisions as a company. And I think, I'm always going to love people. And that's going to be a part of what's out in front when I lead. So when you got to make decisions that impact people that you love, those are deep waters. But to have a tight-knit ELT who operates off of the heart, the norms and everything, like I said earlier, made sleepless night type decisions. We were able to make them with a level of confidence that we were doing the right thing for the company and the people.
This is the Organizational Health Advantage podcast with Keith Hadley and James Felton, principal consultants at Table Group. They're in the business of coaching leaders to build strategic focus and cultural alignment that leads to amazing results. Welcome to the Org Health Advantage.
Hey, welcome back to the Org Health Advantage. James, good to see you, my friend. And I'm
you
excited
as well, Keith.
today. Thank you. I'm excited today because if you're watching a video, you can see we have a couple of guests. So today we have Ryan Wall, who is CEO of FHI out of Raleigh, North Carolina. And he has been working a ton with our good friend and colleague, David Hoyt. David, awesome to have you back, man.
Absolutely. Great to be here. And I'm really fired up for all the listeners to hear more about Ryan and his leadership story.
Yeah. So David, why don't you introduce Ryan a little bit better than I did? I'm excited to hear his story.
Yeah. So Ryan is a terrific leader, and we had the privilege of knowing each other in my former career life. I've spent 19 years working with John Maxwell in his world, and Ryan was a wonderful client in that world, also very involved in the nonprofit. And so fast forward into the Table Group world, it was interesting because actually it reached out to the Table Group, and the Table Group sent me the lead, not knowing that there was past relationship with Ryan. And that's how we officially launched into this work. But there was some friendship and relationship prior to that. But what I value so much about Ryan is just true servant's heart when it comes to leadership, and genuinely cares about people. And just excited to dive more into the story.
Ryan, welcome.
Yeah. Thank you guys for having me. Not a lot on my calendar today, but I'm just going to claim this is the highlight of the day so far. And it's going to be the highlight of the day. So I appreciate the opportunity to get on and talk about our journey. Yeah. And I will add a little fun fact to what David shared. Of course, we have background from David's seasons at Maxwell, and just that season of my life was tremendously impactful. David was a part of that, and some of the folks that are still part of that. Not long after David went into this season with the Table Group, he had reached out and found out what he was doing. And I've been a student of Pat's books for a long time, probably like a lot of my peers that'll listen to this. And David was telling me what we were doing, and I kind of thought, that could probably be helpful to bring in our organization. And we actually had dinner on the calendar, and I'm pretty sure it was March 17th, 2020.
Wow.
We were going to eat dinner in Raleigh.
Yes, I remember that. I forgot
dinners to be eaten out in Raleigh on March 17th because of the pandemic. And then so we were going to get together as friends, and, I was prepared to hear more about what David was doing. And obviously his travel and our dinner got canceled. Being resumed like 4 years.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Super stoked to be with you guys today.
Awesome.
Oh, that's awesome.
So if somebody's not familiar with FHI, if they're not a client of yours or a partner of yours, tell us a little bit about the business. Just give us some background.
Absolutely. So FHI, we are a family-owned company. My dad, Chuck, easy for me to call him Dad, and my stepmom, Jane Beth, she goes by JB. They founded the business. This is our 35th year in business this year. Wow. So we got a birthday coming up in June. I have been in the business, pretty sure this is either my 27th or 28th year. They start to run together. And I've been in the CEO role for the last 12 years. So I am the second CEO that the company has had. My dad obviously was the first. And I would say that stepping into this role in succeeding my dad is the honor of a lifetime.
Hmm.
And so it's family-owned company. To this day, I was actually just with my parents at their home some this week. We connect on the business. We have great times together, but it's a family-owned company, so there are just many blessings that come with that. And as you would know, and any peers in the same boat would know, that there's dynamics that come with that. But what we do is we started our business as a truck unloading service, primarily in the grocery supply chain, and that has evolved into more of an overall labor and data solution. So our business operates within the supply chain. So picture high volume amount of product running through distribution centers. We go into those distribution centers as a third party, and we focus on providing a quality workforce so the customer who owns the building can focus on growing their business. We see ourselves as the guide, so our customers can be the hero. And so it is heavy on labor. So the men and women who do the work around the clock every day all over the country, they're what, get me out of bed in the morning. So, and then the data we collect in the process, more and more people, as you know, are putting more value on one version of the truth that the data tells. So our goal is to increase productivity through the supply chain. So that's a bit about us, about 3,000 associates, and wow. It's a really fun place to be.
Amazing. Well,
Awesome.
what was going on in the business when you first thought, you know what, maybe I'll reach out for some help?
Yeah, well, I've always been an advocate for, outside assistance, a fresh set of eyes. I think there's a proverb that talks about extra counsel. That's my translation of it. So we as an organization, whether it's the partnerships we've done with the Maxwell Company, utilizing executive coaching for individuals. So we've always, throughout my leadership, had an appetite to lean on outside help. I remember the first time that I thought, I think we could benefit from this, is when I read Death by Meeting. This was a long time ago. I think between Death by Meeting and 3 Signs of a Miserable Job, I'm like, ooh, is he writing about us? So, and then I think I took like the 1-pager that you could download with the book, and I'm like, I am going to take it upon myself to have better meetings. And I would love to say that I was really effective at that, but I was not. So there just continued to be this. There's probably value in somebody from the outside coming in to guide us so we can be more effective as a team. There's so much practical advice on specifically the weekly tactical meeting. We currently we're having a weekly executive team meeting, and I'm like, I felt like I had gotten like manna in terms of how to make this better. And I introduced the concepts to the team, and then, I'm all about having a little drama in meetings, so it's better than the movies, as the book would say. And I was not, it didn't go, it didn't stick. And then that's where I started to think, they've got a pretty solid model. There's probably value in somebody coming from the outside and helping the team understand these principles. And obviously had a lot of that energy around that. Like I said in the beginning, David and I were going to get together in March of 2020 to probably talk about what it would look like to have David come in and be a guide for us. And then we had to pick back up on those conversations several years later.
And talk to us about the composition of the team at that time and the size.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know if this is common in, more heart-driven family businesses, but what we would do is when someone would become, so in our language, an executive would be somebody at a vice president level or above. And when somebody would get, they would grow into a vice president role, bang, they were part of the executive team. So therefore they were part of the meeting cadence we would have. There was always a weekly meeting, and then we would pretty frequently do like quarterly or biannual meetings. And I think I'd have to go back and check, but I think it's safe to say that group, in terms of number of people, got up to between 14 and 16 people. And it's interesting because early in my leadership journey, I probably would have assigned a sense of pride to that in terms of, we're including these executives. We've got this big team, but as we progressed on, and we did great work, we did really good work together, but it just became this part where you could sit in a meeting and think, this is probably not the most productive part of people's day. And our efficacy as a team probably could be better. So conceptually, we kind of knew that was happening, but we really didn't put rocket fuel to that until we partnered with David.
So going back, Ryan, to the very first offsite, any particular big ahas, takeaways? Because it really was it was a new team, meaning everybody had been part of that leadership group before, but it was essentially planting the flag. This is our go forward ELT. Any particular things stand out from that meeting?
I would step back a little bit before the meeting when we first engaged that we were going to work with David, and we actually had Brad Haynes join us as a partner to David for some of that initial approach. And I had knowledge of Brad through a mutual leader we've both done work with, Raymond Gleason at Building Champions. But I think when the team, I removed myself from picking the consultant part because I had a close friendship with David, and I had a really intimate knowledge of the efficacy of Brad. So our team, a couple members of my team helped choose who we were going to use. So we started out with both of the guys, David being our lead consultant. And in one of those early calls, it was like, in order for our kickoff to work, the group needs to be like 7 to 8 people.
Wow. I will say you brought in the big guns for that first session.
Yeah,
Shout out to Brad Haynes. Shout out to David. I mean,
so before we stepped in the room, there was an aha.
Yeah.
And it was like, okay, I have been saying we need a stress test, and now I'm getting it.
Yeah.
So we had to work hard prayerfully to just think through the wisdom of who are going to be the right people in the room to get the most out of what we need as a business and what our tour guides, if you will, are telling us we need to do to be effective. Conceptually, I knew that a smaller group would be more nimble, but then it was like, you got to make a call. Jumping into your question, David, some of those first ahas, and if my peers that are listening or people who are aspiring to, be in a CEO role or an officer in an organization, I am sure you have read in multiple books, pick the author, Brene Brown, Pat Lencioni, whoever it is, that talk about the power of vulnerability. And we can all understand that concept and agree with it, and it pairs well with a cup of coffee. But when you have somebody saying, okay, it's time to be vulnerable, and if you want the team to bleed, you need to hemorrhage. That's my language, not David's. But the value of right out of the gate, obviously me having the opportunity to kick the meeting off and say, kind of here's why that we're here, and here's what we aim to get out of that. But I mean, you got down to brass tacks quick, and we have people on our team that have personalities where they probably lost sleep for a night or two leading up to the meeting, just knowing that there was enough pre-work to whet your appetite for the way this thing was going to go. Yeah. And then you got some that are just like, they're ready to dig in.
Yeah.
So the power of that vulnerability, and I think just the simple guidance in terms of vulnerability, the leader goes first. So Ryan, you go first. And in terms of weigh in to buy-in feedback on a topic, you go last. I mean, there's just really simple things that are profound that you don't necessarily get unless there's a guide in the room. And Dave and Brad were just phenomenal in how they pushed us to engage. But they do it in a way that people just lean in. Our group did. I was very proud of our team and have been that they've leaned in on the process.
One of the things that I remember, and I mean, we weren't probably 30 minutes in, but we got immediately into a sacred cow discussion.
Yeah.
How did you think back, like, how did you feel in that moment? Because the team did a great job of right
Yeah.
off the bat. I remember entering the danger,
Yep.
and we kind of had a list of here are some sacred cows in the
Yep.
organization.
Yeah, it had been talked about in the organization for a while around, we have scenarios where we are treating people unconditionally. And as a follower of Christ, I want to model unconditional love, but I also had somebody help me understand very early in my C-level leadership journey that, if you create an unconditional environment in the company, you'll destroy your high performance culture. And I think we had a strength of deep caring and loyalty to people. And I'm sure my peers listening have been in these situations. I think all leaders have. But we would tend to let relationships usurp performance. So, to David's point, there was some energy around some perceptions that people had that we were holding on to, what we call it as sacred cow, right out of the gate.
One of our previous guests on the podcast, who's a family business guy, talked about this concept that, when you lower the standard, you create the new standard. Like the behavior unaddressed becomes the standard.
Yeah.
I think is the quote, and I that is such an important thing to navigate, and you are not an outlier at all in among leaders.
Well, I think
that struggle with that.
To speak so highly of the partnership on the org health journey, to David's point, I mean, right out of the gate, and again, go back to what I just said, there was emotional care for a lot of the people that we were navigating this with. So, yeah, we had some new voices in the room that were newer to our company that would really lean in on some of these situations, never attacking the person. These are such high value leaders, but attacking the issues that we believe were creating problems. So the emotional elevators went up pretty quick, but having, in our case, this day, David and Brad in the room to call out a body language signal, to say, hey, you're communicating a lot by not talking. What do you think?
Ooh.
If I were to try and facilitate that, no. People probably would have been intimidated. So, and I only say that because, just based on my position in the business, I understand that my words weigh the most. So I would just say for those that are maybe have that situation where they need to just really lean in on something that maybe they've been pushing under the rug, that the model really unearthed some of that. And they were very productive discussions.
Yeah. I'll pivot. Unless we want to keep talking about the team, I did think it was interesting that you started this work kind of right in the front end of COVID. So I'm just curious, how was COVID for your company?
Yeah.
What was the impact of org health, of having org health and this work during that season?
So go back to what I explained about our business, high volume product movement through supply chain. And a lot of our customers are businesses that took on massive tailwinds. I mean, there was staff needed in the supply chain that industry experts weren't anticipating for maybe 5 or 6 more years. And that need came about overnight. And we're a labor provider. So our business took on significant tailwinds, as did our competitors in our space, because the supply chain needed more men and women to come to work. So that pushed tailwinds to our business. Our existing customers had massive growth. New customers came to us needing help, and it was a firefight. I mean, we were putting rookies in the firefight. It was just responding just to serve the demand. So I think because we had a really great culture going into that, we were able to withstand the disruptive nature of it. But just like any disruptive tailwind, ideally that tailwind doesn't go on forever. And like many businesses, you either had a tailwind or a headwind, in my opinion. And we had tailwinds that started, but then those tailwinds, as the world started to normalize a little bit, they became headwinds. And when we actually first started our work with David, we were still having tailwinds, but they were really starting to slow down. So we started with the wind at our backs economically. And within the first year, the wind was in our face. And we had grown up to service the demand and added significant infrastructure to serve the demand. And so when the headwinds started to come, we were bloated, for lack of better terms. So to navigate, again, as a heart-driven, faith-based company, this reality that you got to protect the ship. And again, how many of us have read that in a book while having a cup of coffee? It's nice to read it, but when it's your ship, man, it's tough. So to have the partnership, so one, to have all the team norms in place, strategic anchors, all the things that you build into your playbook, and to lean into those to really make tough decisions, made a gut-wrenching process, I would say, very effective. I would not have wanted to do it any other way.
Wow.
Tell us a little bit about your team norms, how you guys use
Yep.
them. And also, well, let's start there. Yeah, let's just talk the behavioral piece, because I feel like you have really leaned into some teams, declare them, put them in a playbook, and then don't refer to them.
Yeah.
I feel like you guys have really lived those things out on
Yeah.
a consistent
So
basis.
we didn't have any going in. We could probably have platituded a few things, right, and said we do this, but to really get down to the team norm. So I would say, and I'm sure peers listening to this would have a similar makeup, because you want diversity of thought on your executive leadership team. And sometimes diversity of thought is going to come from people whose primary focus in the business are different areas of the business. And I think in any company, people can get territorial. Silos can build up. That, shout out to Pat, Silos, Politics, Turf Wars, read that one too. And thinking, I need the download from this one as well. So team one is our first team norm. And it was like, hey, as an ELT, we understand that we have a major theme of focus towards a specific area in the business. Maybe somebody's is operations, and somebody's is business development, and somebody's is finance. But in this team, we are here for one team, and that is FHI. So the commitment to all fight for what is best for team one, that was the first norm we put on the board. And to this day, that one can change a conversation quickly. One of our other opportunities goes back to what I said earlier about the value of vulnerability. And again, in a heart-driven culture, which we're proud of that, there also a consequence of that, if you're not careful, is people may shy away from conflict. And I don't think we scored terrible, but I don't think we scored great when we first did our team assessment on that bottom of the pyramid around conflict. So we said, we obviously have an opportunity to improve here. Therefore, we're going to enter the danger. And that was a team norm. And to this day, we use those three words intentionally, because I believe, even though we've got muscle memory around entering the danger, to call it out before you enter the danger, I really feel like you're doing a service to the people in the room to say, I'm taking a risk. I'm going to be vulnerable. I got something to say. I just believe in human nature that the recipients of that, whatever's coming, they're going to lean in a little bit versus be like, so.
I love that you brought that up. We often will say, you use these things as like vocabulary, because in a way, it's almost like permission granting.
Yeah.
It's also like preparation for a bit of a soft landing.
Yeah, and we even had that discussion.
Yeah.
Maybe in our second time together, like, hey, do we need to really say that every time? And somebody was like, no, we're good at that now. And I'm like, hey, hold up, actually. It's kind of like this cue. I think Brene Brown talks about a rumble.
Yes.
Say we're going to rumble, somebody knows, okay. My dad used to use this metaphor of, we're about to go on a flight, and we're going to take off here, and we're going to get here, and it's going to get bumpy. and then we're going to land the plane and walk away better together. But it was like, it was brilliant. You just knew. So that was really big for us. And then I think as a result of how we were operating as a team prior to really defining our ELT, we were slow on decision making. So one of our team norms is giddy up, make the decision. Yeah, we've got to get a little credit.
Yes.
Love it.
You know.
Yeah. And so, do you call those out like before a meeting, at the start of a meeting, or is it front and center and we just use it when we're about to enter that piece?
Great.
Like,
Early on, we would call it out at the beginning of the meeting. So right now, if it is a monthly strategic or a quarterly offsite, we have laminated on the wall our playbook. And it's 2 pages, right? And it's like, so
Nice.
it's there. We've got pretty good muscle memory around the team norms now. But in our weekly tactical, we always call out strategic anchors. What's most important right now? How will we succeed? So, and yes, every week it's like, we read this a lot, but what I've learned is when you're starting to think, we say this a lot, you're getting somewhere. You absolutely, I think you have to keep it somewhere as a visual cue, because no matter how much you immerse yourself in this work, you're coming into a meeting 1,000 miles an hour flying at treetop level if you're on an ELT.
Yeah.
Hey, Ryan, talk to us about your strategic anchors. How you guys use those, and just kind of the evolution of where those came from.
Yep. So that was a new terminology for us. I would say, fortunately, we had stuff in place that made its way as a strategic anchors, because we based the business for us, and I'm going towards the strategic anchors here. We say lead from the heart. That's one of our strategic anchors. Well, if you're at FHI, you know more about that, because the focus of the business is based off of Proverbs 4:23. Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. Well, because you can't do what you don't define, we had to define our heart. What is our heart? So our heart is service that makes a memorable and measurable difference. We're a service business, and we want to serve people in a way that they have positive memories of us and they can measure the impact we're making on their business and their lives. And then we have these chambers around our heart, like an anatomical heart. We have 4 chambers. So those kind of made their way into our strategic anchors. So we start with lead from the heart, and then you have our purpose, vision, values, people, continuous improvement, and strategy. And then what do we get up to do? Yes, we get up to make a difference in people's lives in ways they have positive memories and can measure the impact on their business and their life. But we, as a business, we go to work to strengthen the supply chain. Like, there's a lot of ways to say that, but how do you boil it down? Like, we're trying to make the supply chain stronger. So that's another element of our anchors. And then, as I've mentioned it before, we're not the hero. We're the guide. And I boil that down. If you do anything adventure related, whether it's going on a hike or going fly fishing or whatever you're doing, and you get a guide, they're trying to make you have a positive outcome. So I just, as somebody that enjoys adventure, that's one of my favorites. Because as a business that has a lot of confidence, I mean, my parents' DNA is to hard work done right. I mean, just go, get it done. And if you miss, shoot better next time. So I think companies can fall into the trap of thinking they're the hero. We have fallen into that trap before. Do business with us because we're great at X, Y, and Z. We're the guy. We're the guy.
Yeah.
So, Ryan, your dad, larger than life personality. Talk to us about both some of the things that you learned in leadership from him.
Yeah.
As well as just the challenges in taking over for the founder as the next generation.
Yeah, absolutely. Larger than life. just brilliant. But I mean, these backgrounds that you just admire, you hear of. His college was Vietnam. My dad was Golden Knight in the United States Army, so high achiever, and I, I don't think afraid of anything. Maybe some of that came from his time in combat, but just also very gifted visionary. One of my favorite definitions of vision, I heard it from Andy Stanley, and that's a mental image of what could be, fueled by a passion that it should be. My dad's definition is, hey, I have the ability to see on the other side of the hill. And he does. I mean, extremely gifted in vision. So obviously, whether it's when I reported directly to him and he was coaching me on specific areas of the business, but we all know that more is caught than taught. Being alongside of him when I was starting to get to that level in the business and just watching how he connected with people, he is a master at entering the danger. Absolute master. And sometimes he goes in with 2 fists out and he ends in a handshake. It's just, he's very effective at that. So you had all those things that I would see that are so rich to this day. And I'm not him. I'm Ryan. We're a lot alike. We look alike. We have about the same length of a short fuse and a lot of passion. But from my leadership journey, I'm not Chuck Wall. I'm Ryan Wall, and I've got a lot of the gifting that he has, and then I have some that he doesn't, and I'm not as strong in areas he was. And I, as a young leader, I had to go through that journey of, sometimes you just feel like you'll never measure up. And I think anybody that succeeds, a mom or a dad or an uncle or an aunt, whatever the situation may be, I think that comes with the territory. But once you start to mature, and some of it comes with time, and my dad is an incredible encourager. So to get that encouragement, to get that coaching, but I was just with him a couple days ago, adventuring together. My dad's 81 years old, and just, the hour drive in the truck, I felt like I got a master class in a few areas of the business that we're working on right now. So it's overall just an incredible blessing. But I have to be me and, honor and learn from the things I've learned from him as well.
As you're bringing all this up, one thing that stands out is how when we work with CEOs to help them, create clarity, we're often not creating it. We're just simply recognizing the clarity that's already been there, but it's maybe hasn't been quite articulated. I'm curious, as you describe your father, and then you walk through your clarity, that your anchors, your business definition, your purpose, your values. How much of that was just simply recognizing what was already true, and how much of that was like, we need to bring this into existence?
Yeah, I mean, early days in the business, in those early years, I mean, we just weren't the size that we are now. So just by essence of the physical nature of the business and where people were, my dad's words, his energy, his vision were contagious, and it was a contagion to less people. So a lot of the trajectory of the business, people were catching it versus being taught it. And as we grew and got, just larger, and you had to have more structure, one of the things that the business needed, and my dad tasked me to do, was to clarify our purpose, clarify our vision, clarify our values. And I think he would say, and he has said, that was a kind of a proving grounds for me and something that the business needed. And he believed I was the guy to go put that together. So that is an area that we're different in a great way, is, being a product of Maxwell and many others, like how to put language to complexity in an organization. And my dad has expressed his appreciation for how we manage the business. And he hasn't, in his role now in the business, he doesn't come to our offsites. He knows David just from, the past work we've done in the nonprofit space. But we were recently with an executive of a large university, and my dad's like, "Tell him about what y'all are doing with David Hoyt and those guys," and he goes, "I think they probably get a lot out of that." So that when I hear that, like my dad is an advocate of how we are putting clarity, structure around what we're
Yeah.
doing.
Oh, that's
Can we
awesome.
turn the corner and talk a little bit, just a couple of comments about the impact? I mean, you focus on how you got the team right and how you got clear. What's been the impact of that?
So okay, all of our meetings are better. We added meetings that we didn't have. So like I can't say enough about the daily stand up. Like
Mm.
the huddling up and the information that you can get at the beginning of the day about what's going on with each of your team members, and or a reminder of, oh, I need to get that to so and so because you mentioned it in the stand up. The efficacy of a day when a team gets together for 15 minutes at most. Um, didn't have that before. That was huge. Our weekly tacticals, um, they just were not good prior to getting more focused on what we're going to use, and then having the model. Like, so, okay, we're looking at, we're talking about what's most important right now. We're talking about our strategic anchors, and then all of our defining objectives, all the stuff that's in the model, like every week. And the efficacy of those meetings has gone up. Evidence or an example would be we're just faster at making decisions. Faster at making decisions. I think I know I have had to grow in this area a lot. I want to wait till something's 101% before we make a call, and that's not reality. Sometimes you got to make a call when you got 51% confidence in something. So that whole model's great, and then sticking to a monthly strategic, not overburdening an agenda with topics so you can actually get stuff done. I look forward to those days. I'm motivated by being around the team. Now, I like some alone time to replenish. But as the CEO, like I greatly look forward to our meetings. It's fun for me.
Wow.
And then I think really, I can't say enough about, we had to make really difficult decisions as a company. And I think, I'm always going to love people. And that's going to be a part of what's out in front when I lead. So when you got to make decisions that impact people that you love, those are deep waters. But to have a tight knit ELT who operates off of the heart, the norms, and everything, like I said earlier, made some sleepless night type decisions. We were able to make them with a level of confidence that we were doing the right thing for the company and the people.
Hey,
Wow.
Hey, Ryan, talking about decisions, I would love to hear your thoughts on like making a decision when there's differing opinions in the room and like overcoming maybe that bias towards consensus.
Yep. Well, okay. What helps us there, team one. The team norm on team one, it's almost like you're putting like this anchor in the table to say, all right, I know we've got multiple diversity on this, and there's a charge over here and there's a charge over here, but let's call out team one. Everybody take a deep breath. And then we'll use other things like when it comes to decision making, the whole fist to five model, like where, hey, 1, 2, 3, we're all going to hold up, and if it's anything less than a 5, what gets it to a 5? And we've had times where, 4 people in the room have all 5 fingers up and somebody's over there with 2.
Yeah.
Well, you don't ignore that person's 2. You say, hold up, what's going on? Talk to us. What are you concerned about? We've had times where that would we might put off the decision for another day. But it's just, and then you got Giddy Up, like, because we were really good at putting it off for another day and another day and another day and another day. But typically, I think as leaders who care, your tendency can be to put off a decision that is hard to make. If a leader hasn't done that, come on now.
Which, and hopefully I'm not giving away too much here, leads to your personal current personal commitment is more assertion toward decisions, right?
Yes.
That's something you can gotten feedback from the team.
Yeah.
We trust your leadership. Make the call.
Yep.
as just something they continuing to work on.
Yep. Absolutely. A commitment to the team. We had an opportunity this week where that came up, and it's a decision that we could have been fine putting it off until next week. But it was like, I think we got all the data we need. Talked to all the people, got everybody's input. We can make a decision. But I also think when you have the effectiveness of a tighter team where there's healthy conflict, there's trust, there's over communication clarity, you're getting the results you want. For me, like once I've gotten the input and really heard people just go there with how they feel about something, I have so much confidence in the team I get to serve with. This whole thing about the leader goes last when it comes to decision making, I mean, that's worth its weight in platinum, because then it has a way of taking the pressure off of the CEO. Because I know we all fall in a trap of we feel like we got to know it all, we got to make the call. The diversity of thought and having others weigh in, it's just gives me more confidence in my own decisions.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Hey, Ryan, talk about, so high trust team.
mhm.
At the same standpoint, there's no such thing as too much trust. And I know you recently felt like maybe there's just tiny gaps in trust here on the team, or there's another twist to the dial that we could turn. And so in our last meeting, there was that last 10% of feedback. Talk about the impact of going to an even deeper level of feedback maybe than it had ever gone before.
Yeah, I remember. I mean, as David mentioned, it wasn't that long ago. We were working on what approach we wanted to take for our team health day. And while you can hear my advocacy for enter the danger, right, in this model and how much better we've gotten at that. But I also think that complacency can set in terms of entering the danger. And you need something to just push that a little harder. So yes, there was this suggestion to do this exercise called the last 10%. And the way David explained it, as he just paraphrased, is there's usually maybe with some people about 10% of feedback that you're afraid to give them. And I've just learned when I hear something like that and it makes me very uncomfortable, say yes. Right? Because doesn't life begin at the end of the comfort zone? And again, we have some personalities on our team that is no problem for. And then we have some that had we told them that was coming in advance, I don't know, they might have gone fishing that day. But the value in it. But again, if we didn't have a David in the room for an exercise like that, it could have gone off the rails or not been effective. So the environment that David helps create, people just leaned in. And hey, if you don't have a last 10% for somebody, don't make something up. But I got feedback for me that was very helpful, that is changing the way I weigh in on something and the energy in which I weigh in on it. Because I got great feedback from one of the team members. We had a team member that got a theme of the same feedback from multiple people. I mean, this meeting was like 3 or 4 weeks ago. And for the last 3 or 4 weeks, this team member has been digging in, leaning in, getting after it. And then we have this meeting structure where we can check in with him every week. Things are getting better. Things are improving because the team was willing to step into a pretty uncomfortable exercise and go there.
Wow. That's
awesome.
Well, Ryan, it's clear you're a leader who has really honed his craft as a leader. We say the best leaders have a leadership, philosophy, and they readily teach it to others.
Yeah.
And so I just appreciate what you're sharing with us, because I think there's so much gold in here that could be picked up on.
Yeah.
Maybe just wrap it up. Oh, go ahead, James.
I was just going to say the other affirmation I would give is you clearly are open-minded. You're clearly a learning leader. I heard somebody once say, like, just like there's no expert parent, there's really no
there's
expert
not.
leader. Like we're always learning, and that's the vibe I get from you for sure, Ryan. So keep it up. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
Yeah.
what's that? There's a very common saying that the truth will set you free.
Yeah.
I've heard a twist on that I've had to swallow and appreciate is, yeah, but first it'll piss you off. But you have to be willing, and I think when leaders can model that, because, I don't think many people want to work for a leader that is not open to having their feathers ruffled a little bit.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, if you could just give maybe one piece of advice to another CEO who's either, gosh, they're struggling right now with org health, or they're struggling to decide whether they even want to do it, what would you tell them?
Stop struggling whether you want to do it and take the risk. Would be my piece of advice. But a mentor of mine that has had a tremendous impact on me and my family. He's got a very simple saying: is you can't give what you don't have. And if the leadership team doesn't have health, you can't expect the next levels and the next levels and the next levels to have it. You may have great leaders at these next levels who are doing a great job, but if the arteries at the top aren't healthy, right, to use this metaphor, things are just going to get really clogged up as it moves throughout the organization. So you cannot give what you do not have. So if you know that your team needs a stress test, take the risk.
Yeah.
Take the risk. And because and again, I think it's one of these things, like there's a lot of intangibles when it comes to team development. But there's a lot of tangibles when you don't do it, and that's typically bad results. And we don't get up every day saying, man, I hope we have bad outcomes today. Right? You want to get up and win the day, but therefore those that are leading the organization, for-profit, nonprofit, whatever your situation is, you can't create health if you don't have health. So
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Boy, that's the mic drop right there.
Yeah.
David, thank you so much for introducing us to Ryan. Thank you to you and Brad Haynes for the great work that you've done there.
Yep.
And Ryan, honestly, just thank you so much for being willing to share your experiences with us.
Yeah.
And for being generous with your learnings, because I know other leaders are going to be able to benefit from this as well.
Yeah. You guys are very kind to have me on, and we're on the journey. We're learning, but we're very grateful for how this is helping us be more effective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So those that are listening and watching, thanks again for joining us today. Just go ahead and like and subscribe, share this with somebody that you know would benefit, and we'll see you next time here at the Org Health Advantage.
Thanks for listening to the Org Health Advantage. Your hosts, Keith and James, are helping leaders change the world of work and invite you to share this podcast with your friends and colleagues. For more resources on building stronger teams and organizational health, check out tablegroup.com.